The quiet hum of the empty house was a constant reminder. Every breath I took in that space felt hollow, like an echo of a life that was once vibrant, now just a memory. 2 years. 2 years since Sarah was gone. Her scent, a mix of lavender and something uniquely hers, still lingered in her side of the closet, a cruel trick of the air. Sometimes I'd catch a whiff, and for a split second she was there, just around the corner. Then the chill in the air would settle in, a cold, empty weight in my chest. I was adrift, a boat without a rudder, just floating in a sea of despair. What was the point? Why keep going through the motions? Every morning felt like another climb up a mountain I had no interest in reaching the top of. Life became a series of small, strange occurrences. At first, I'd brush them off. Coincidence, I'd tell myself. Like finding her favorite childhood toy, a worn-out plush bear, tucked away in a book I hadn't opened in years. It was a book she hated, a sci-fi novel I loved. Then there was the music. Faint melodies, songs from our college days, would drift from the radio at random moments, usually when I was thinking about her. One time, I was walking past a small, overgrown patch of garden, a place I'd never noticed before, and there it was, a single, perfect bluebell, blooming out of season. Sarah loved bluebells. It felt like a little wink from the universe, or from her. But these little winks started to pile up, becoming less comforting and more unsettling. It wasn't just the objects or the songs, it was a feeling, a persistent awareness of being watched. Not in a scary stalker way, but more like a gentle, almost benevolent gaze. I'd turn around expecting to see someone, but there was never anyone there, just the quiet hum of the house or the rustle of leaves outside. It made the hairs on my arms stand up, a strange mix of comfort and unease. Then the dreams started. Not the usual grieving dreams where she was alive and then I'd wake up to the crushing reality. These were different, vivid, symbolic. She was there, but not as I knew her. She was younger, sometimes older, always with a knowing look in her eyes. The dreams were filled with numbers, repeating sequences, abstract images that flickered too fast for me to grasp fully when awake. There was a sense of urgency in them, a feeling that she was trying to tell me something important. One night, she pointed to a constellation in the sky, then to a specific pattern of numbers, 3, 7, and also 11. I woke up with my heart pounding, a mixture of comfort from seeing her and a gnawing sense of confusion. What did it mean? I felt like I was being pulled into something much bigger than myself. The numbers became a recurring theme in my waking life, too. 3, 7, 11. I'd see them on a clock, on a receipt, on a license plate. It was like the universe was shouting at me. And nature itself seemed to be in on it. Cloud formations would sometimes take on impossible shapes, swirling in, patterns that seemed too deliberate to be random. Birds would gather on the power lines outside my window, all facing the same direction, chirping in a way that sounded almost like a conversation. And the light. Sometimes, the sunlight would hit the wall in a specific way, creating patterns that were eerily similar to the abstract images from my dreams. It was harder and harder to dismiss these as mere coincidences. They felt like deliberate signals, a language I was just beginning to understand. Around this time, the news was buzzing about the James Webb Space Telescope. Every other day, there was a new image, a new discovery. Distant galaxies, exoplanets that looked like jewels, nebulae that were breathtaking. Scientists were talking about the origins of the universe, about the possibility of life out there. I found myself drawn to these reports, feeling a strange pull, towards the cosmos. It was like a part of me recognized something in those images, a faint memory of something I couldn't quite place. I'd spend hours looking at the pictures, feeling a connection to something vast and ancient. But with this growing fascination came a lingering sense of foreboding. My rational mind tried to push it away. It's just grief, I'd tell myself. You're looking for meaning where there isn't any. But my gut, that intuitive knowing, told me otherwise. Something monumental was coming. I could feel it in the air, a subtle shift in the world around me. Like the world was holding its breath, preparing for an unknown event. The unease grew, a constant companion. Then came the first direct sign, something undeniable. I was sitting in Sarah's old armchair, lost in thought, holding a worn photo of us from our honeymoon. I was thinking about how much I missed her, how I wished she could give me a sign, tell me what to do. As I looked at the photo, a faint, almost invisible light began to glow from behind it, projecting onto the wall. It wasn't a reflection. It was a pattern of light, shifting and swirling, forming the numbers 3 and 7 and 11, followed by a series of symbols I recognized from my dreams. Then the light formed a single word, clear as day: look. It faded as quickly as it appeared, leaving me in the dim light of the room, staring at the empty wall. My hands were shaking. This was not a coincidence. This was a deliberate communication. This was real. The dreams became even more intense after that. No longer just vague images or fleeting glimpses of Sarah. They were vivid, almost tangible conversations. I would find myself in a place that felt like our old home, but brighter, somehow more alive. Sarah would be there, her eyes full of a quiet urgency. She didn't speak with words, not really, but her thoughts flowed directly into my mind. They were clearer now, less cryptic. She urged me to pay attention, to look up, and to listen. She showed me constellations, not the ones I knew, but swirling patterns of light that seemed to pulse with meaning. Sometimes she'd just hold my hand and a wave of pure emotion would wash over me. It's love, longing, but also a fierce sense of impending revelation. It wasn't just comfort anymore, it was a preparation. I'd wake up feeling like I just had a real conversation, the emotional residue of it lingering through the day. It was exhausting, but I couldn't stop them. I didn't want to. Outside my own bubble of dreams and signs, I started noticing a strange undercurrent in the world. It wasn't anything you could put your finger on, no specific event or news report. It was more like a feeling, a low hum of anxiety that seemed to be spreading. People seemed more on edge, more irritable, but also strangely distracted. Conversations would drift to vague worries about the future, about things feeling off. There was a collective unease, a sense of something building, a quiet tension permeating society. I felt this sickness acutely. It wasn't physical, but a mental and emotional weight, and I connected it to the cosmic shifts I was sensing. It felt like the world was holding its breath. The synchronicities escalated, becoming more intricate and frequent. I'd be thinking about a specific historical event, and then a stranger on the bus would start talking about it, unprompted. Or I'd pick up a book I hadn't touched in years, and it would fall open to a page with a passage that directly addressed a question I'd been wrestling with in my dreams. I started seeing animals in unusual places. A lone owl perched on my fence in broad daylight, watching me with an unnerving stillness, or a flock of pure white birds landing in my yard, staying for a few minutes, then taking off in perfect formation. Each appearance felt like a specific message, a piece of a larger puzzle. They were symbolic, I knew, but their exact meaning remained just out of reach. Then, the James Webb Telescope news started to shift. At first, it was all about beautiful images and scientific breakthroughs. But slowly, subtly, the tone changed. News reports began to hint at unusual data, strange readings that scientists couldn't quite explain. They'd talk about unexpected energy signatures or anomalies in distant star systems, always with a careful, measured tone, trying to downplay anything too sensational. But the whispers in the scientific community grew louder. Online forums buzzed with theories about impossible celestial mechanics and objects that defied current understanding. I devoured every article, every blog post. These reports weren't just news, they were confirmation. They were proof that what I was experiencing wasn't just in my head. Something truly monumental was happening out there, and the telescope was picking it up. I became obsessed. My days were spent researching, cross-referencing, trying to make sense of the flood of information. I dedicated myself to deciphering Sarah's dream messages, the repeating numbers, the symbols. I delved into ancient prophecies, spiritual texts from different cultures, and even fringe scientific theories that most people would dismiss as crackpot. I felt like I was being guided, as if an unseen hand was directing my research, leading me to exactly the right book, the right article, the right online discussion. It was a strange kind of purpose, driven by grief and an unshakable sense that Sarah was still with me, still leading me. The physical manifestations started. I'd feel tingling sensations in my limbs, sometimes a low hum, like a subtle electromagnetic pulse running through my body. My senses became heightened. Light seemed brighter, colors more vibrant, sounds sharper. It was almost too much, sometimes leading to vivid, almost hallucinatory experiences, where the air itself seemed to shimmer, and faint patterns would appear at the edge of my vision. It felt like my own reality was becoming more porous. The lines between waking and dreaming, between the tangible and the unseen, blurring. It was disorienting, but also exhilarating. Through all of this, a powerful, undeniable premonition grew within me. I was being prepared for something extraordinary. My grief, my unique experiences, the isolation I had felt, it all seemed to have a purpose. It had led me to this precipice. Sarah's messages weren't just comfort. They were a preparation, a training for a monumental event that was rapidly approaching. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew I was meant to play a part in it. A sense of destiny settled over me, heavy and certain. I was ready. The official announcement hit like a shockwave. It wasn't a whisper anymore, or subtle hints in scientific journals. This was a full-blown press conference, broadcast globally, with stern-faced officials from multiple space agencies. They confirmed it. The James Webb Telescope had detected a significant, unidentifiable anomaly. They described it as a massive, structured energy signature, something that defied all known astronomical phenomena. It wasn't a natural celestial body, they insisted, but they couldn't say what it was. The world reacted with a mix of awe, fear, and a furious scientific debate. Experts argued on television, trying to rationalize the impossible. Conspiracy theories exploded online, but even the most outlandish ones seemed to fall short of explaining the sheer strangeness of what was being reported. For me, it wasn't a surprise. It was the confirmation I had been waiting for, the moment I knew was coming. As I listened to the official statements, a chill ran down my spine, not of fear, but of profound recognition. They showed diagrams, and simulations of the anomaly, its intricate patterns and the specific energy frequencies it emitted. And there they were, the repeating numbers, the symbols I had seen in my dreams, the ones Sarah had been sending me. They were embedded in the anomaly's structure, in its very essence. It was as if the universe itself was speaking her language. A profound sense of vindication washed over me, mixed with a terror that was almost paralyzing. My experiences hadn't been a delusion. They had been preparation. Sarah had foreseen this, and she had been guiding me, piece by piece, to understand what was now unfolding before the entire world. It was terrifying to be right about something so immense, something so completely outside the realm of normal human experience. My connection to Sarah became almost tangible after that. It wasn't just in dreams anymore. It was a constant, guiding presence. I felt her nudges, her subtle insights, her warnings like a quiet voice in my mind, urging me to interpret the unfolding events correctly. It was as if she was right there beside me, helping me to sift through the noise, to see the patterns that others missed. I felt like a vessel, a conduit for something larger than myself, a part of a purpose I was only just beginning to understand. Her love, which had once been a source of such deep pain, was now a source of incredible strength and clarity. It was her love that allowed me to look at this terrifying cosmic event, not with pure dread, but with a strange sense of mission. The global anxiety that had been simmering for weeks now escalated into outright confusion and disorientation. News reports were filled with stories of people experiencing strange dreams, vivid and unsettling. There were reports of heightened emotions, sudden surges of inexplicable joy or profound sadness, and a widespread feeling of impending radical change. It was the sickness I had felt, now spreading like wildfire through the collective consciousness. Society struggled to cope with the implications of the anomaly. Stock markets fluctuated wildly, social unrest flared in unexpected places, and philosophical debates raged about humanity's place in the universe. It felt like the world was holding its breath, waiting for something, anything, to happen. Driven by Sarah's guidance and my own obsessive research, I began to decode the first layer of the anomaly's message. It wasn't just random energy, as some scientists initially suggested. It was a complex, multi-layered transmission. I used the numbers and symbols from my dreams as a key, cross-referencing them with ancient texts, mathematical patterns, and even certain musical frequencies I had found in my research. It was slow, painstaking work, but gradually, patterns emerged. The signal wasn't just data. It was a language, a form of communication. Initial deciphered elements hinted at a consciousness, a deliberate attempt at contact. It was like finding a Rosetta Stone in the stars. The message seemed to be a series of warnings, but also an invitation, though the precise nature of both remained shrouded in mystery. Governments and media outlets struggled to control the narrative. They downplayed the anomaly's significance, offered bland reassurances, and tried to frame it as a natural, if unusual, cosmic event. But the harder they tried, the more conspiracy theories surged. People didn't trust the official story. They felt the sickness, the underlying unease, and they sought explanations. I navigated this landscape, discerning truth from fabrication, guided by my inner compass and Sarah's subtle prompts. I understood that the truth was being obscured, not just by fear of the unknown, but by deliberate manipulation. There were forces at play that wanted to keep humanity from understanding the true nature of this communication, perhaps to maintain control, or perhaps simply because they didn't understand it themselves. It was a dangerous game of information and disinformation, and I felt like a solitary player, holding a secret that could change everything. As more layers of the message slowly revealed themselves, a terrifying and awe-inspiring glimpse into the entity's intent began to form. It wasn't a message of conquest, as many feared. There was no aggression, no threat of invasion. Instead, it was something far more profound. A warning about humanity's trajectory, a caution about the path we were on, and an invitation to a different way of being. There were hints of a grander cosmic order, a universal consciousness of which we were all a part. I felt a mixture of dread at the implications of their warning and a strange sense of hope. The entity wasn't monstrous, it was ancient, wise, and deeply concerned. It was reaching out, not to dominate, but to guide. And I, somehow, was meant to be its first interpreter. The weight of that realization pressed down on me, heavy and undeniable. The weight of that realization pressed down on me, heavy and undeniable. But it was nothing compared to the dream that followed. It was the most vivid, most real dream of my life, an apex of all the prophetic visions Sarah had sent me. I was standing in a place I didn't recognize, but it felt ancient, sacred, somehow connected to everything. The air hummed with an energy that vibrated through my bones. Then Sarah was there, not as a fleeting image, but as truly present as she had ever been in life. Her eyes, filled with a familiar love, locked onto mine. She spoke, not with words I heard, but with a clarity that bypassed my ears and went straight to my understanding. She told me the alien's arrival was imminent. Not in some vague, distant future, but soon, very soon. And she told me the when and the where. The dream wasn't just a message, it was an experience. Blinding light filled the space around us, not harsh, but soft and warm, like the universe itself was breathing. Resonant sounds, like a choir of stars, filled the silence, and a feeling of absolute truth settled over me. There was no doubt, no room for questioning. This was happening. She showed me a place, a set of coordinates, and an image of myself standing there, waiting. She told me I had a specific role to play, a bridge to build. Her presence in that dream was so real, I could feel the warmth of her hand in mine, a comforting pressure that anchored me even as my mind reeled with the enormity of her revelation. When I woke, the dream lingered, not fading like others, but imprinted on my consciousness, a blueprint for the coming events. Outside my small bubble of revelation, the world was spinning into chaos. The anomaly detected by the James Webb telescope, once a distant curiosity, was now having an undeniable influence on Earth. Strange weather patterns swept across continents. Sudden, localized storms, unseasonable heat waves, and then, just as quickly, unseasonable cold snaps. The auroras, usually confined to the poles, were seen dancing in skies much further south than ever before, painting the night with impossible colors. More subtly, there were reports of minor shifts in gravitation, dismissed by scientists as seismic activity or equipment malfunctions, but felt by many as a persistent, unsettling pull. Mass hysteria began to erupt in cities. People gathered in public squares, some praying, some protesting, some simply staring up at the sky with blank, terrified faces. Widespread panic took hold as the world grappled with the unknown. Governments, trying desperately to maintain order, issued vague warnings about unprecedented celestial events and urged calm. But their words only fueled the public's fear and speculation. Conspiracy theories, once whispered in online forums, now screamed from every street corner. It was a world on the brink. teetering between collapse and a desperate search for meaning. Despite the logical absurdity of it all, I felt an overwhelming compulsion to prepare for the contact. Sarah's dream had left me with an unshakable conviction. My internal struggle was intense, a battle between the fear of the unknown and the unwavering certainty instilled by her messages. There was doubt, naturally. Could this all be a delusion? A grief-induced fantasy? But the synchronicity, the recurring numbers, the precise details of the dream, they all pointed to a reality far beyond my own making. I began to gather specific items, following cryptic instructions from my dreams. A particular crystal, a book of ancient symbols, even certain types of food and water. It felt like a sacred duty, a pilgrimage to an unknown destination, guided by the woman I loved and the cosmic entity she was helping me to connect with. The global anxiety, the sickness I had felt building, seemed to reach its peak. But something strange was happening. For many, that anxiety transformed into a collective spiritual awakening. Reports flooded social media and news channels, though often dismissed by mainstream media, of shared dreams, where millions saw similar symbols or felt a universal connection. People spoke of sudden epiphanies, profound insights into the nature of existence, and a universal feeling of interconnectedness, as if humanity was finally waking up to its shared destiny. It was like a global nervous system was being activated, sensitizing everyone to a higher frequency. I observed this shift, understanding it as a preparation for humanity, a necessary softening of the collective psyche before the monumental event. Using the numbers and symbols from Sarah's dream, I meticulously deciphered precise geographical coordinates for the aliens' contact. It was a remote location, far from any major city, deep within a vast, untouched wilderness. The coordinates pointed to a place known for its ancient geological formations, a natural amphitheater that felt like it had been waiting for this moment for millennia. It was a place of spiritual and historical importance to indigenous cultures, though its significance had been largely forgotten by modern society. The urgency to reach this location became paramount. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to move, to get there before it was too late. I also sensed that my actions were being monitored, not just by the alien entity, whose presence felt like a constant hum in the background of my mind, but by human authorities. The governments, desperate to control the narrative and prevent panic, would undoubtedly be tracking anyone who claimed to have information about the anomaly. The risk of being intercepted or silenced before I could fulfill my role was very real. I knew I couldn't just walk into the designated contact point. I needed stealth, cunning, and a plan to avoid detection. The world was a dangerous place now, filled with both fear and suspicion, and I was a man with a secret that could either save or doom us all. Then came the final message from Sarah. It was not a dream this time, but a profound, overwhelming feeling that washed over me like a wave. A quiet voice, clear as a bell, resonated in my mind, confirming my path and offering words of profound love and encouragement. "You are ready," she said, her essence surrounding me, comforting and powerful. She emphasized the importance of my unique perspective, my ability to bridge worlds, the world of grief and loss, and the world of cosmic understanding. She reminded me of our love, a bond that transcended death and time, and how that love was the very key to understanding what was coming. The message left me with a sense of peace, a quiet resolve, and a profound understanding of my destiny. My purpose was clear. I was to be humanity's interpreter, its guide, its first point of contact. The journey was about to begin. The journey to the deciphered contact location began with a quiet desperation. I packed a small bag, mostly with bare necessities, knowing that comfort was a luxury I couldn't afford. The world outside my door had become a strange, unsettling place. The streets, usually bustling, were now dotted with people moving with a hesitant, almost fearful energy. News reports blared from every screen, talking about the celestial event and the unprecedented global anxiety. They used scientific jargon, tried to reassure, but their voices sounded strained, almost hollow. I heard the distant hum of sirens more frequently now, a constant reminder of the thin veil holding society together. Flickering lights in apartment windows seemed to mirror the flickering hope in people's eyes. The oppressive weight of fear in the air was palpable, a heavy blanket that clung to everything. My old car, a reliable but unremarkable sedan, felt like a clandestine vehicle as I navigated the increasingly chaotic roads. Official roadblocks were popping up, manned by nervous-looking police or National Guard members. They were checking IDs, asking about destinations, trying to maintain some semblance of order. My wife's guidance, that subtle intuition she had cultivated within me, became my compass. A sudden urge to turn down a small, unmarked dirt road or an unexpected feeling to wait 5 minutes before proceeding often saved me from direct confrontation with these checkpoints. I felt an invisible hand guiding me, a silent protector. It was a strange mix of being utterly alone and profoundly connected, constantly on the edge of discovery, yet always managing to slip through the cracks. The world's reaction to the imminent contact was a spectacle of fear and awe. News channels were in a frenzy, their graphics flashing with images of the James Webb anomaly, now clearly visible in the night sky as a strange, pulsating light. Scientists debated wildly. Politicians gave speeches that promised answers they clearly didn't have, and religious leaders spoke of prophecies fulfilled. The panic grew with each passing hour, a monstrous wave crashing over humanity. Yet, from my detached perspective, driving through the quiet backroads, the cosmic scale of the event became clearer. It wasn't just about Earth. It was about something far, far bigger. That collective sickness I had observed earlier, that pervasive anxiety, was evolving. It was transforming, for many, into a profound sense of universal empathy and interconnectedness. I saw it in the small towns I passed through. Strangers were helping strangers, sharing resources, offering comfort. Ancient divisions, racial or political, seemed to lessen under the shadow of the unknown. A fragile unity was emerging from the chaos, born not of agreement, but of shared vulnerability. I felt this surge of empathy, too, a warmth spreading through me, understanding it as a crucial preparatory phase for humanity, a necessary softening, a collective opening before the unimaginable. During the solitary stretches of my journey, new layers of the alien signal seemed to intuitively unlock within my mind. It wasn't a sudden download of information, but more like a gradual unfolding of understanding. I'd be driving, lost in thought, and suddenly a concept would crystallize, a meaning would become clear. I understood warnings about specific human actions, the dangers of certain societal paths we were taking, and glimpses of potential timelines that lay before us. The messages reinforced the idea of a profound choice humanity faced, a crossroads we were rapidly approaching. It was like receiving instructions for a cosmic test, a test we didn't even know we were taking until now. The power of synchronicity became my primary navigation tool. When I felt lost or uncertain of the next turn, a specific number sequence would appear, on a weathered sign, in the mileage of a passing truck, or even in a snatch of conversation from a roadside diner. These weren't random. They weren't just confirmations. They were directions, Once I was about to take a main highway when I saw the numbers 3271 repeated on a license plate right in front of me. Sarah had used that sequence in one of her dreams to signify detour. I instinctively took a smaller, less traveled road, which later proved to be the only one not blocked by a sudden flash flood. The universe, or perhaps Sarah, seemed to be actively assisting my journey, clearing paths and illuminating the way. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of driving, evading, and deciphering, I arrived at the sacred site. It was exactly as the coordinates described: a vast, natural amphitheater carved into the side of an ancient mountain range. The air here was different, still and charged, thick with an energy that vibrated beneath my skin. The light, even though it was late afternoon, seemed to possess a strange quality, softer, almost pearlescent. There was an absolute stillness, a profound silence, that swallowed all other sounds, leaving only the faint echo of my own heartbeat. I parked the car a good distance away, hidden amongst the dense trees, and walked the final mile on foot. As I stepped into the center of the natural bowl, a profound sense of destiny and awe washed over me. I stood at the threshold of contact, a lone figure in a world on the brink of something entirely new, my heart pounding with a mixture of fear and an unshakable resolve. This was it, the moment I had been prepared for, the reason for all the pain, all the signs, all the dreams. The stillness at the sacred site was absolute, a heavy quiet that pressed in on me from all sides. Then it began. It wasn't a sudden flash or a thunderous arrival. Instead, the air itself started to shimmer, a subtle distortion, like heat rising from a desert road, but without the heat. From the center of the natural amphitheater, where I stood, a point of light began to coalesce, faint at first, then growing steadily brighter. It wasn't a harsh, blinding light, but one that pulsed with an inner luminescence, shifting through colors I couldn't quite name. Not just white or blue, but hues that felt ancient and alive. There was no sound, yet I felt a resonant hum deep within my bones, a vibration that started low and slowly climbed, filling the space around me. The atmospheric pressure changed too, a gentle push, like standing at the edge of a vast, unseen ocean. It wasn't a ship, not in the way we imagine them. It was a gradual manifestation, a drawing forth from something unseen, a weaving of light and energy into a tangible presence. As the light intensified, it began to take on a more defined shape. It was ethereal, yes, but not indistinct. It was a form that was both alien and strangely familiar, embodying an elevated consciousness. It wasn't grotesque or monstrous, as so many sci-fi stories had always shown. Instead, it was a being of pure, intricate geometry and flowing light, radiating an immense intelligence and a profound serenity. Imagine a sculpture made of light, constantly shifting, yet holding a stable, elegant form. There were no discernible eyes or mouth, no limbs in the human sense, yet its presence communicated everything. It was a perfect balance of complexity and simplicity and impossible beauty. And in that moment, standing before it, I felt no fear, only profound awe, a deep sense of recognition, as if I had known this presence, or something like it, long before this very moment. It was a feeling of coming home, mixed with the staggering realization of how vast and unknown the universe truly is. Then the communication began. It wasn't with spoken words, but a direct transfer of thoughts, emotions, and vast amounts of information directly into my mind. It was telepathic, yes, but more than that. I experienced a temporary merging of consciousness with the alien, seeing glimpses of its perspective, feeling its ancient wisdom wash over me. It was like drinking from a river of pure knowledge, overwhelming, yet perfectly clear. And through all of this, my wife's presence felt strongest. It wasn't her voice, but her essence, her comforting energy, acting as a bridge, a familiar anchor in this sea of newness. She was there, not just as a memory, but as a guiding force, helping me to process what was happening, to understand. The alien entity, through this shared consciousness, revealed its purpose. It was not here for invasion or conquest. It identified itself as an ancient, benevolent observer, part of a vast cosmic collective that spanned galaxies. Its purpose was to deliver a critical message, a profound warning, and an offer of guidance to humanity. It expressed a deep, almost sorrowful concern for humanity's current trajectory, our self-destructive path, and the potential consequences of our collective choices. It was not a judgment, but an observation, delivered with a sense of universal compassion. It was a cosmic doctor, diagnosing a planetary illness. Through this telepathic link, the alien shared visions, not just images, but entire experiential sequences of Earth's history, humanity's incredible potential, and terrifyingly divergent timelines stretching out before us. I witnessed the intricate interconnectedness of all life, not just on Earth, but across the cosmos. I saw the delicate balance that held everything together, and how our choices, even seemingly small ones, rippled through this cosmic tapestry. I saw the consequences of humanity's choices, both the destructive paths we were currently on, leading to isolation and decay, and the inspiring futures we could still forge, filled with unity and spiritual growth. It was a profound lesson in cause and effect on a galactic scale. The alien also explained the global sickness that had been sweeping across the planet. It wasn't a disease in the biological sense, but humanity's collective consciousness preparing to receive its message. It was a process of energetic alignment, a subtle shift that was heightening intuition and empathy across the species, making humanity more receptive to new truths. It was a necessary discomfort, a cosmic alarm clock, shaking us awake from our long slumber. And I understood then that my role, my unique sensitivity born from grief and loss, had made me a key receptor in this process, a conduit for this monumental communication. My personal journey was intricately woven into humanity's collective awakening, and then the first direct impartation of knowledge. It wasn't a secret formula or a technological blueprint. It was a profound piece of cosmic understanding, a universal truth that resonated with every fiber of my being. It was an insight into the fundamental nature of reality, the interconnectedness of all things, the power of conscious intent, and the true purpose of existence beyond our limited earthly understanding. This knowledge wasn't just intellectual, it was deeply felt, transforming my understanding of everything. The weight of this revelation was immense, a responsibility that settled upon me, yet it was also incredibly empowering. It was the answer to questions I hadn't even known how to ask, a missing piece that completed a puzzle I had been unknowingly assembling my entire life. I was no longer just a man who had lost his wife. I was a witness, a student, and now I realized something more. The first contact was complete, and the world would never be the same. The alien's presence still hummed in the air around me, a subtle vibration that resonated deep within my bones. It had communicated not just facts, but a profound understanding of our existence, wrapping its message in an undeniable truth that bypassed my rational mind and settled directly into my soul. The core of its message was stark, yet filled with an unexpected hope. Humanity stood at a critical crossroads, facing divergent timelines. This wasn't a prediction of doom, but a clear explanation of cause and effect on a cosmic scale. One timeline, it showed me, led to self-destruction, a slow, agonizing descent into cosmic isolation. It was a path paved with unchecked aggression, environmental devastation, and a relentless pursuit of superficial power, ultimately leading to our species becoming a cautionary tale in the galactic archives. The other timeline, however, painted a different picture. It was a path of spiritual evolution, of profound empathy, and ultimately integration into a vast, harmonious galactic community. This choice, the alien conveyed, was not some distant future event. It was immediate, constantly being shaped by our collective consciousness, by every thought, every action, every decision we made right now. It stressed that individual and collective consciousness were the absolute primary drivers of these timelines. Our technology, our scientific advancements, our political systems, these were merely tools. It was the consciousness wielding those tools that determined our destiny. Spiritual awakening, a genuine, heartfelt empathy for all living things, and the recognition of our universal interconnectedness were not just noble ideals. They were the essential keys to choosing the positive path. And then, with a clarity that brought tears to my eyes, I understood the deeper meaning behind my wife's messages. Her whispers, the repeating numbers, the perfect synchronicities, they weren't just about my personal grief or even just about preparing me for this alien contact. They were a sophisticated, loving preparation for this cosmic choice that humanity faced. She had been guiding me, nurturing my awareness, and through me, perhaps, reaching out to others to help us all toward this revelation. Her love, I realized, truly transcended dimensions. It wasn't bound by earthly life or death. It was a beacon, a guiding light that continued to shine, illuminating the path forward. My consciousness expanded under the alien's influence, allowing me to perceive fleeting glimpses of other realities, parallel universes, where different choices had led to vastly different outcomes. I saw worlds ravaged by the same mistakes we were making, and others that thrived in harmony, a testament to the power of free will. The sheer scale of existence was revealed to me, both terrifying in its immensity and exhilarating in its possibilities. It made our human squabbles seem so small, yet simultaneously highlighted the immense rippling impact of every single decision. Then came a specific, pointed warning about humanity's over-reliance on superficial technology. It wasn't technology itself that was the problem, the alien explained, but our disconnect from natural and spiritual laws in its pursuit. Our obsession with gadgets, with instant gratification, with external validation, often came at the cost of our inner wisdom, our connection to each other, and our planet. This technological hubris, if unchecked, had the potential to accelerate our destructive timeline, pushing us further away from balance and wisdom. It emphasized the critical need for a delicate balance between innovation and consciousness, between what we could build and what we truly understood. The global sickness, that pervasive anxiety and unease that had swept across the planet, was also explained. It wasn't a punishment, but a planetary awakening, a cosmic alarm clock designed to shake humanity from its deep slumber. It was a necessary discomfort, a collective nudge to prepare us for the profound choice ahead. I understood then that my unique role was not just to receive the message, but to interpret this awakening, to help others understand the true nature of their unease, and to guide them towards the conscious choices that would shape our future. Finally, the alien imparted a last powerful seed of knowledge directly into my consciousness. It wasn't a fully formed message, but more like a complex data packet, a blueprint for understanding that would unfold over time. I knew it wouldn't be immediately decipherable, but it would guide me, subtly influencing my thoughts, my actions, and my understanding as I embarked on my mission. A profound sense of responsibility settled upon me, heavy yet exhilarating. My purpose, once clouded by grief, was now crystal clear. I was no longer just a man. I was a conduit, a messenger, and a guardian of a truth that could change everything. The cosmic revelation was complete, and the weight of human destiny now rested in part on my shoulders. The alien entity, having delivered its profound message and imparted its final seed of knowledge, began to recede. It didn't vanish in a flash or with a loud sound. Instead, it dissolved, slowly at first, then more rapidly, back into the shimmering light and energy from which it had coalesced. The intricate geometric patterns softened, the radiant glow diminished, and the resonant hum that had filled the air faded into a profound silence. I was left standing alone at the sacred site, the cool night air now feeling strangely empty, yet still charged with an undeniable energy. Its departure was not an ending, I realized, but a transformation. It left behind a lingering energetic signature, a faint hum that I could almost hear in the deepest part of my being, a sense of continued connection that would forever bind me to this moment and this revelation. A profound peace settled over me, a clarity I had never known before. I was fundamentally changed. The man who had entered this place, consumed by grief and searching for answers, was gone. In his place stood an emissary, a bridge between worlds, bearing a message of cosmic significance. My grief, once a heavy cloak of sorrow, had been transmuted into an unwavering purpose. My loss, the agonizing emptiness left by my wife's passing, had been filled with a profound understanding of universal love and interconnectedness. Her presence, which had guided me through dreams and synchronicities, remained within me, not as a source of sorrow, but as an empowering force, a constant reminder of the love that transcends all boundaries, even those of life and death. The world outside continued its frantic spin, grappling with the aftermath of the James Webb anomaly's close encounter. News channels were awash with conflicting reports. Scientists, politicians, and talking heads offered a dizzying array of explanations, theories ranging from natural phenomena to elaborate hoaxes. Yet, beneath the surface noise, a significant segment of humanity was experiencing undeniable spiritual shifts. Reports of shared dreams, sudden epiphanies, and a universal feeling of interconnectedness were becoming more frequent, even if the mainstream media struggled to interpret them. I observed all of this with a quiet understanding, knowing the deeper truth that lay beneath the surface. My new mission was clear, though daunting. I had to share the aliens' message of choice, of timelines, and of spiritual evolution with humanity. How do you tell the world that their future hinges on a conscious decision between self-destruction and cosmic integration, especially when you're just one person with an unbelievable story? I knew I couldn't be dismissed as insane or a charlatan. My personal story, my journey through grief, the undeniable synchronicities, and the profound transformation I had undergone would have to serve as the foundation for my message. It wouldn't be easy, but the weight of the aliens' knowledge, The profound sense of responsibility propelled me forward. I understood now that the future hinged not on grand, dramatic gestures, but on individual choices, on everyday acts of kindness, on the collective raising of consciousness, one person at a time. Every single person's awareness, their empathy, their willingness to look beyond the superficial contributed to the shifting timelines. The message wasn't one of impending doom, but of immense hope and empowerment. Despite the gravity of the choice, the aliens' communication had been filled with an underlying current of optimism, a belief in humanity's potential. As I absorbed this truth, a brief, inspiring vision flickered through my mind. It was a glimpse of a positive future timeline, one where humanity had indeed embraced its spiritual potential. I saw a world where technology served consciousness, where empathy was the guiding principle, and where we, as a species, had taken our rightful place among the cosmic community, not as conquerors, but as humble, wise members. This vision, fleeting yet vivid, fueled my resolve and provided a beacon of hope for the daunting task ahead. It felt like a gentle, guiding hand, showing me what was possible if we collectively chose wisely. And so, here I am, sharing my story with you. This journey has been unbelievable, terrifying, and ultimately profoundly transformative. I've told you about my grief, the strange signs, the dreams, the James Webb anomaly, and the direct contact. I've shared the core message. Humanity stands at a crossroads, facing a critical choice between two timelines. This isn't just my story. It's our story. It's about the power of individual action, the immense impact of collective consciousness, and the spiritual evolution that awaits us if we choose wisely. This is just the beginning. The alien seed of knowledge is still unfolding within me, and there are more messages, deeper revelations, and further steps in my mission to come. I invite you to consider your own role in this cosmic choice. Think about the choices you make every day, the energy you put out into the world, the empathy you extend to others. Your consciousness matters. Your choices matter. Stay tuned, because this incredible journey is far from over. There is so much more to share, so much more to discover, and together, we can navigate this path forward.